Hey guys, Fru here. Today we're going to be answering a very fascinating question. And the question for today is, what do you see at the top of Mount Everest? What do you see at the top of Mount Everest? So that's the question we're going to be answering today. We know Mount Everest is the tallest mountain in the world. It's a mountain over 29,000 feet. So on the whiteboard today, I'm gonna do a quick drawing of what Mount Everest could look like. So just bear with me for the drawing. So let's assume we have some mountain ranges, and somewhere here we have Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world, over 29,000 feet. So your goal is climbing on Mount Everest, and that question is, what do we see at the top of Mount Everest? So now assume that this is our person who wants to climb on Mount Everest, and that has been the goal, that has been their dream in their life. They want to get to the top, and we're wondering what would they see when they get to the top of Mount Everest. So let's take this person who wants to climb to Mount Everest. What are some of the things that they might have to do in order to make it to the top of Mount Everest? So maybe they have to get some gear. Of course, you want to go to Mount Everest. It's a very high mountain. There's very little oxygen up there. You need to have the correct gear for it. You also have to think about planning. As part of planning, you need to figure out logistics. Because we're going up there, you need to figure out the time of the year. You have to go there at the right season in order to be able to make the climb. You need to figure out the people who would be your guides to take you to the top. So there's a lot of logistics that have to go into that. All the gear that you buy, you might have to take it over to the area where you have to, your base camp to climb up to Mount Everest. So a lot of logistics has to go into place. Then maybe some training. Of course, you have to train, you have to get your body ready, you have to know how to climb, how to use your gear. So a lot of practice has to go into potentially climbing Mount Everest. And just figuring out time. You need to make time for it. So you have to maybe take time off work. If you have work that kind of coincides with that, you have to figure out how long you have to be there and what window you have. So a lot of things goes into you preparing to climb up to the top of Mount Everest that we have drawn on the board here. Now, assume that you've done that. So this is a person, they have gone through all that struggle, and the day comes, they travel over to the Himalayas and to Nepal, and then they go through all the process, and then they can climb up Mount Everest. So day one, they go through a couple of mountains, go through the next mountains, and then eventually our person makes it to the top of Mount Everest. And yes, they are happy. They've made it to the top of Mount Everest. But the question still remains, what do you see when you make it to the top of Mount Everest? So just using intuition, this person that has made it to the top of Mount Everest, what would they see? Well, we know Mount Everest is the tallest mountain, so obviously they won't see any other mountains. They can only from there look down, or maybe look and see some clouds. So here I'm gonna draw a couple of clouds, just bear with me. So maybe they look this way, they see some clouds in the sky, they can see some trees and some vegetations that are down here. They can see some very clear blue skies, and everything is just amazing in the horizon, in either direction. Everything is just beautiful, and that's what they can see. That's fascinating. But guess what? There is another person too. We'll draw this person with a red. And this person decides that, well, they don't want to go through that hassle of climbing to Mount Everest to see this view of clouds, of trees, and everything looking down. They want to take a different approach. What they do is they buy a plane ticket. Let's draw a plane here. So this is our fictional plane. And instead of going through all this hassle and preparation and the time and the logistics, the planning and the buying of gears to make it to the top of Mount Everest just to see this view, this person buys a plane ticket and flies across Mount Everest, maybe on their way to China or on their way to some other country. They fly across Mount Everest and they are sitting by the window and they can see everything to the ground. So person A goes through the hassle and the pain and the struggle and the time and the training and the logistics to go to the top here to see that view. Person B gets a plane ride and they fly across. And they fly across and they can see everything that we see below here. But person B even has a better experience, because not only are they seeing the same thing, they are seeing it from a higher height, because planes fly at a higher altitude than the top of Mount Everest. Even they can get up to 30,000 feet or more. So this person can see that view from that perspective and down, but they didn't have to go through this hassle. And so there you have it. That really poses that question to us. What do you see at the top of Mount Everest? We know you can see the skies, you can see all these views that we've talked about, but at the same time you can also get that view if you just took a plane ride to go across Mount Everest. So what is the point? The point is, this question that we've asked here in the first place, what do you see on Mount Everest, misses the point. This question is not even the question we should be asking, because what is important in this scenario between these two people is not what they see at the top of Mount Everest. It's what they experience getting to the top of Mount Everest. This person has an experience. This person went through a journey. The first person went through a journey, a challenge, a lot of obstacles, and they were able to overcome that to make it to the top of Mount Everest. Person B had it easy. They just flew across and they saw the same thing. So even though they, in one way, in one point of view, they see the same things, person A and B take totally different fulfillment out of that, or totally different outcomes from that experience, because one has a story to tell, one has overcome something and another person hasn't overcome. So what this tells us is the obstacle is the way, and that's the title of a book, a very popular book. I can leave the link below for those of you who want to check it out. In as much as we can always just fly to the top of our destinations, we always have to remember that the journey, that process of going through, is what gives it meaning. It's what makes being at the top of Mount Everest meaningful. So whatever you see when you get to the top of Mount Everest depends on what you went through to get to the top of Mount Everest. That's really the fundamental to this question. So whatever you see getting to the top of Mount Everest depends on what you experienced going through to get to the top of Mount Everest. Because another person, say a third person here, again in red, could have taken a plane ride or a helicopter ride instead of walking and climbing and dealing with the cold and the snow, and just taking a helicopter ride and make it to the top. But this person's experience and the fulfillment that they get will never compare to the person who actually went through the journey and the pain of climbing to the top. And so guys, each and every one of us, as a takeaway for this, has a Mount Everest in our life that we're trying to climb. Each and every one of us. You have a Mount Everest, I have a Mount Everest, your co-worker has their Mount Everest, your bosses have the Mount Everest, the companies we work at all have Mount Everests we're all trying to climb. So our life is a journey of getting to that destination. But if we're focused just on the destination itself, we might miss that very important fact that the journey is just as important, if not more important, than the destination, than getting to Mount Everest. So that question of what do you see when you get to Mount Everest can be flipped around and asking, what would you see when you get to your Mount Everest? You know, I was talking to somebody the other day who told me their goal in life, or one of the most important things they want to achieve in life, was to make, and I'll write it here, make $1 million. I'll write it as 1M. That they want to make $1 million. That's what they're striving for. Whatever they're doing is to make $1 million. let's take this $1 million and just put it here as your Mount Everest. They're trying to climb to this Mount Everest. But the question now that I have to ask them, then what? Then what? What would you see when you get to this point? Would you see these beautiful skies and all of this and get fulfillment out of that journey that took you to Mount Everest? Or would you get there and just feel empty because you didn't actually put in the work and you just took a plane ride and flew across Everest? If you like it, please leave a like button. If you don't like it, guys, please dislike it. That way it would be feedback for me to understand that this is content that you like or don't like, and that way we can always make great content for you. And if you have suggestions in terms of content, please check out my channel, subscribe to it, look at what we've created already, or leave a comment below in the comment section to tell me what kind of content you want, and I'll definitely try my best to make content to fit the needs of what you guys want. So thank you guys very much, and I hope you climb your Mount Everest, and I hope you enjoy the journey of going along to climb that Mount Everest. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.